I never imagined I'd be one of those people sharing their personal drama online, but I need to get this off my chest. My story isn't some over the top Hollywood plot or a soap opera, it's my actual life. If you've ever felt your heart ripped out, you'll understand. This is about betrayal, revenge, and maybe a bit of my own foolishness, but every bit of it is true. So let's get straight to it. My wife cheated on me, not for love, not for passion, but purely for money. She hooked up with some guy because he could give her things I couldn't, fancy things, luxury items. Looking back, I feel like a fool for not realizing it sooner. She played me and I let her. But let me start from the top. My name isn't important right now, just know I'm an average guy working in it. It's nothing flashy, but it pays the bills. I've always dreamed of breaking out of the corporate world, starting my own business, maybe something tech-related like an app or consulting just to make a name for myself. But dreams require money, and I didn't have much of that lying around, which is where some problems began. Enter Emma, my wife or ex-wife, I should say. Emma's the kind of woman who turns heads the moment she walks into a room, long dark hair that always fell perfectly, a smile that could thaw ice, and a figure that could make most men lose focus. She knew she was gorgeous and didn't hesitate to use it. Believe me, she used it. When we met, I thought I was the luckiest man alive. She seemed perfect, fun, smart, and sure, she had expensive taste, but who doesn't like nice things? At first, it was just a little stuff, a designer bag here, overpriced shoes there. I didn't think much of it. I assumed the problem was me, that maybe I just wasn't earning enough and needed to work harder. But as time went on, I noticed more. She wasn't just into fashion, she was obsessed. She had a thing for high-end luxury brands, the kind you see on celebrity Instagram accounts. She often talked about how she deserved the best because, in her mind, she looked the best. Beauty wasn't just a gift to her, it was currency, but I didn't see that until it was too late. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't broke. We weren't struggling to keep food on the table or anything. We had a nice apartment, took the occasional vacation, but I wasn't exactly swimming in cash. My job was steady and I was doing okay, but not making the kind of money to buy $1,500 smartphones or $600 blouses every month. That's where the tension began. We'd argue about money, but not in a sit down and solve it kind of way. It was more like she'd make snide remarks, like, it'd be nice if we could take a real vacation for once, somewhere exotic, or I saw this amazing dress today, but I guess I'll wait until we can afford it. It drove me crazy. I was working my tail off, saving for our future, while she treated life like a luxury shopping spree she was missing out on. I tried to explain we needed to live within our means, but she'd just get quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like a failure, like you're not enough. I started picking up extra work wherever I could, freelance gigs, side jobs, anything to earn more. I had this idea for a tech startup that I was sure could take off, but we were stuck in this endless financial cycle. Every time I tried to save, something would come up, usually her wanting something new. It was like she had an insatiable craving for things we didn't need. The first real red flag was the phone. We were having dinner one night, nothing fancy, just pasta and wine at our small kitchen table. Her phone was right next to her plate, and as I reached for the bread, or something I can't even remember, she snatched her phone up like it was about to explode. I froze. It was such an odd reaction. Got something to hide, I asked, half joking, but totally serious. She shot me this cold, hard look I'd never seen before. No, she said, flat and defensive. Everyone's allowed their own space. You don't need to touch my stuff. That didn't sit well with me. We'd never had secrets, or at least I didn't think we did. But that night, I realized something had shifted, and I didn't know what it was. From that point on, her phone became like a vault. She took it everywhere, even to the bathroom, clutching it like it might spill her secrets if I got too close. I didn't want to be that paranoid husband snooping through his wife's phone, but something was eating at me. One day when she was at work, I decided to take my chances. I found her phone on the kitchen counter and picked it up, my heart racing like I was about to disarm a bomb. It was locked, of course, and not with her usual passcode. She had changed it. I didn't know how to handle the anger. I put the phone back and tried to act normal, but inside I knew everything had changed. Then came the handbag. You know the saying, the devil's in the details. Well, in this case, the devil was in a handbag. She'd been flaunting this new purse, claiming it was a really good fake she bought online. But one day, my curiosity got the best of me. Sitting alone in the apartment, I stared at that bag, feeling like it was mocking me. I grabbed it and started searching online. Turns out that good fake was a genuine $3,000 designer piece. I was stunned. I sat there on the couch, phone in hand, digging up every bit of information about the brand's serial numbers, stitching patterns, you name it. There was no mistaking it, the bag was real. That's when everything began to make sense. The phone, the clothes, the shoes, it was all real. And she wasn't paying for any of it with her own money. That night I confronted her. Is this bag real? I asked, holding it up like evidence in a courtroom. Without hesitation, she replied, no, of course not. It's a really good copy. You can't even tell the difference, can you? But I wasn't falling for it this time. I knew she was lying straight to my face, and I felt like a fool for believing her all this time. But I didn't turn it into a fight, not yet. I wasn't ready. I needed more than just suspicions. I needed solid proof. And when I finally got it, things were going to get a lot worse before they got any better. This was just the start, and I had no idea how deep this rabbit hole would go, but I was about to find out. Here's where things start to get real. After the handbag incident, I knew I couldn't keep ignoring what was happening. I couldn't pretend everything was fine, while my wife, Emma, the woman I thought I knew, was out there lying to my face. But I didn't want to confront her without all the facts I needed to catch her in the act, so to speak. One morning I had the day off, but Emma didn't know. She was up early, dressed in one of her perfectly coordinated outfits, makeup flawless, ready to go to work, or so she said. That's when the idea hit me, why not follow her? If she was deceiving me, I'd catch her red-handed. Worst case, she'd actually be heading to work and I'd be wrong. But something told me she wasn't. She kissed me goodbye like always, grabbed her bag and walked out the door. I waited a few minutes to avoid suspicion, then followed her, keeping my distance. I trailed her down the street, heart racing like I was in some spy movie. My hands were sweaty, and my mind was flooded with thoughts. What if she wasn't going to work? What if she was meeting someone else? And then it happened. She didn't go to her job. In fact, she didn't even head in that direction. I tailed her for about 10 minutes before she got into a taxi. I tried to catch the license plate, but it sped off before I could get close enough. I stood there, watching the taillights fade away, feeling like the ground had just been pulled out from under me. I wasn't ready to give up that easily, though. I decided to head to her office and ask around. When I got there, I spotted an employee I'd seen before, probably at a few office parties or when I picked Emma up. Trying to play it cool, I asked if Emma was around or on a break. That's when the bomb dropped. Oh, she doesn't work here anymore, the woman said casually, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. What do you mean? I stammered, struggling to keep my voice steady. She hasn't worked here for at least 3 months. I thought you knew. My heart nearly stopped. 3 months? For 3 months, Emma had been leaving for work every morning like clockwork, and for 3 months she hadn't even had a job. It felt like I'd been sucker punched. I thanked the woman and left, my mind spinning in 1,000 different directions. The rage bubbling inside me was searing hot. This wasn't just about money anymore, it was about trust. She'd been lying to me every single day. On my way home, I couldn't keep it in any longer. I called my best friend Matt and spilled everything. I was furious and not thinking straight. I'm done with this, I said, gripping the steering wheel tightly. I'm confronting her tonight. She has no idea what's coming, but Matt, being the calm and rational guy he is, talked me down. Don't do anything rash, he said. You know your marriage is hanging by a thread, right? If you go in guns blazing, you might never learn the whole truth. What if there's more going on than you realize, Matt said, and as much as I hated to admit it, he was right. If I lost my cool now, I might never uncover who she was seeing or why she was lying to me. I wasn't ready to give up without knowing the whole truth. I need your help, I told him. I have to figure out what's happening. Matt agreed, and we came up with a plan. The next day I would pretend to go to work as usual, but instead Matt and I would follow her together. He had a better car for this kind of thing anyway, tinted windows. A smooth ride, nothing that would attract attention. So that's exactly what we did. I got up, dressed for work, kissed Emma goodbye, like nothing was wrong, and walked out the door. But instead of going to my job, I met Matt at the corner, jumped into his car, and we tailed her. She took another taxi, but this time we kept up. She didn't head to a cheap motel or a friend's house. No, the taxi drove her straight to one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in the city. We're talking gated communities, $1 million mansions, the kind of place where people don't just own one nice car, they have several. Emma got out of the taxi, looked around as if making sure she wasn't being watched, and walked up to one of those luxurious homes. Here's the crazy part. She didn't knock or ring the doorbell. She pulled out a key and let herself in like she owned the place. Matt and I stayed parked on the street, watching. The house was enormous with a driveway that screamed wealth. We sat there the entire day trying to make sense of it all. As the sun began to set, the door finally opened and Emma stepped out. But she wasn't alone. A man followed her, tall and well-dressed, probably in his mid-40s, and everything about him screamed money. He had his arm around her like they were a couple comfortable in each other's presence. That's when Matt pulled out his phone and snapped a picture of the guy. Let's see who this is, Matt mumbled as we started searching his face online. It didn't take long. The man Emma was with turned out to be a big shot, some kind of real estate mogul. He was all over the internet with articles, interviews, charity events, the works. The real kicker? His Instagram profile, there were plenty of pictures of him, but none with Emma. No, his Instagram was full of photos with another woman, his wife. I felt sick. There it was, the proof I'd been dreading. Emma, the woman I'd been sharing my life with, was living a double life, and this guy wasn't just a random fling, he was married too. Matt and I sat in silence, the weight of what we'd seen settling in. We knew we couldn't confront them yet. We needed more information. I had to go home and act like everything was normal, like I hadn't just watched my wife walk out of another man's home. I couldn't explode yet. I told Matt we'd handle it tomorrow. For now, I needed to keep my cool. So I went home, walked in, and kissed Emma like nothing had changed. But inside, I knew everything was different. The next day, the memory of seeing Emma walk out of that house haunted me. I couldn't let it go. My mind was racing, trying to figure out what to do next. Confronting Emma didn't feel right, not yet. I needed more answers. But That's when I got an idea. I couldn't stop thinking about that businessman, his face, his profile, his life plastered all over social media, but always with his wife, never with Emma. I returned to his Instagram page and started scrolling again. Photos of his life filled the screen, luxury vacations, high-end restaurants, but always with his actual wife by his side. She was beautiful too, but not in the flashy, materialistic way Emma was. She had a more understated, elegant look. It didn't take long to find her in the photos, and her account was tagged. I clicked on her profile. It was private, but that didn't matter. I wasn't interested in snooping through her posts. I had something else in mind. I sat there figuring out how to phrase my message. I knew this wouldn't be easy for her, and I didn't want to come off as some lunatic. So I kept it simple. Hi, I'm reaching out because I have some important information about your husband. I'd rather not say much over a message. Can we meet? I think it's something you'd want to know, and we can meet in a public place, whatever makes you feel comfortable. I sent the message and waited, not sure if she'd respond, but she did. Within an hour, she agreed to meet the next day at a busy cafe downtown. I got there early, nerves buzzing inside me. I had no idea what to expect. Would she be angry? Would she even believe me? But when she walked in, she was calm and composed, carrying that quiet grace I'd seen in her photos. We sat down, exchanged some polite small talk, and then I told her everything. I held nothing back, the following, the house, the photos, and the fact that her husband was cheating on her with my wife. She listened quietly, showing little emotion at first. When I finished, she took a deep breath and said, I need to check this out for myself. Give me your number, and I'll be in touch. She didn't seem shocked or devastated. It was like she had been expecting this, or at least wasn't surprised that her husband was capable of it. She stood up, thanked me for telling her, and left, leaving me sitting there, questioning whether I had done the right thing. A week went by, and it was the most difficult week of my life. I had to act like nothing was wrong at home, like I was still the clueless husband, when in reality I knew everything. Emma continued going to work every day, but now I knew exactly where she was actually headed. Every time she kissed me goodbye, it felt like a knife twisting in my gut. Then a week later, I got a call. It was her. Can you come to my house? She asked, her voice calm, almost too calm, and I knew something was up. I agreed, and later that day, I found myself pulling up to her house, a large, elegant home, far nicer than the apartment Emma and I shared. She greeted me at the door and led me into the living room, where a bottle of wine and 2 glasses sat on the table. But this wasn't a casual chat. I hired a detective, she said, getting straight to the point. He confirmed what you told me. My husband has been renting that house for months, meeting your wife there, and he's been buying her all sorts of expensive things, jewelry, clothes, phones, the whole deal. She poured herself a glass of wine, took a long sip, and looked me directly in the eye. I'm going to destroy him, she said, her voice cold and firm. He thinks he can get away with this, but he has no idea who he's dealing with. Her words carried a weight that I could feel. This wasn't someone who was going to let her husband walk all over her. She had a plan, and it wasn't going to end well for him. She finished her wine and poured another glass, then turned to me, sizing me up for a moment. Want some wine? She asked. I nodded. I wasn't about to refuse. I needed something to take the edge off, and maybe she did too. We talked for a while after that. She told me about her life, how her father had built the business her husband now ran. Her father was a wealthy and powerful man, the kind whose name could open doors and close others. She didn't mention his name outright, and I sensed it was better that way. This was a woman born into power and privilege, and she knew how to wield it. After a few drinks, the conversation flowed more naturally. She was sharp, smart, and a bit intimidating. But then without any build-up, she asked me something I wasn't expecting. Do you want to have sex? It wasn't seductive or flirtatious. It was just a straightforward question. I stared at her, surprised, but then I realized I didn't have to think too hard about my answer. Yes, I said. The next hour was a blur of heat and intensity. She was experienced, no doubt about it. She knew exactly what she wanted, and she took it. There was no guilt, no shame, no hesitation. It felt almost like a transaction, but I didn't care. I was caught up in the moment, in the escape from everything that had been weighing me down. When it was over, I left her house feeling strangely satisfied, not just from the physical release, but because for once I felt like I had some control in this chaotic mess. She wasn't just a scorned wife, she was a woman on a mission, and I was now a part of that, whether I liked it or not. When I got home that night, after everything that had happened with the businessman's wife, I couldn't keep pretending anymore. The moment I walked through the door, I knew it was time to confront Emma. I didn't care about staying calm, not after everything I'd seen, not after everything she'd done. I slammed the door behind me, and the noise must have startled her, because she turned to look at me with wide eyes like she knew what was coming. We need to talk, I said, my voice low but trembling with anger. She barely looked up from her phone, still scrolling as if nothing was wrong, but I wasn't having it. I stormed over to her and laid it all out. I know everything, I said, my voice rising. I know about the businessman, the house, the lies. You think I'm that stupid? You're a fool if you thought I wouldn't find out. That got her attention. She dropped her phone and stood up, her face twisted in a mix of anger and disgust, but she didn't even try to deny it. So what? She snapped. I don't need you. I haven't needed you for a long time. You're just a placeholder. He's the one providing for me now. He loves me. He's going to leave his wife, and we're going to be together. The audacity of it all hit me like a train. She was standing there proudly telling me that she'd been waiting for him to leave his wife for her. It was pathetic. You really think he's going to leave his wife for you? I asked, laughing bitterly. You're delusional. She glared at me, arms crossed, like she couldn't believe I wasn't buying into a fantasy. He will, she insisted. You'll see. I'm filing for divorce, I said, dead serious. You can live in your little dream world, but I'm done. We're done, she scoffed. Good, you should have done that a long time ago. And with that, she grabbed her bag, threw some things into it, and walked out the door without another word. No apologies, no remorse, just cold indifference. But she had no idea what was about to hit her in a few days. A few days later, everything came crashing down for Emma and her precious businessman, his wife, that woman with the quiet strength, wasn't just sitting around after our talk, she was plotting a revenge. With her father's help, she tore down her husband's business, leaving him with nothing. I heard bits and pieces through the grapevine, but I didn't care enough to dive into the details. All I knew was that Emma's fantasy life had crumbled as fast as it began. As for me, I filed for divorce, and the process moved quicker than I had anticipated. Emma didn't put up a fight. Why would she? She had already moved on, or at least she thought she had. Then, out of nowhere, I got another call from the businessman's wife. She invited me over, and I had no idea what to expect, but I went. When I arrived, she poured me a glass of wine, and we sat in her living room. So she said, eyeing me with a calm yet calculating look, "What do you want in return for all this information?" At first, I told her I didn't want anything, that I was just happy the truth had come out. But then I thought about it. I'd been stuck in a dead-end job for so long, and I did have an idea I'd been mulling over for a while. There is one thing, I said. I have a startup idea. It's rough, but it has potential. She listened intently, but when I finished, she shook her head. No, she said firmly, not like this. Come back tomorrow with a proper plan. I didn't waste any time. I spent the entire night working on my idea, refining it, and turning it into something concrete. The next day, I returned to her house, but she wasn't alone. There was another man with her, a business analyst. He listened to my pitch, asked a few questions, then whispered something to her. She nodded thoughtfully, then looked at me. All right, she said, I'll invest, but I want 35% of the business if it becomes profitable. I was shocked. I knew she had power, but I never thought she'd actually take me seriously. This was more than I had ever dreamed of, and I agreed to her terms without hesitation. Now, here I am writing this while assembling a team to launch my startup. I can't reveal the details yet, but I know it's going to be successful. I can feel it. It's funny how life turns out, isn't it? What started as the worst time of my life is turning into something that could change everything for me. Thank you, Reddit, for letting me get this all off my chest. Sometimes life takes you down roads you never expected, but maybe that's the point. You don't always know what's waiting on the other side. Update, it's been about a year since everything went down, and looking back, it feels like a lifetime ago. I'm sitting here in my office, my office, writing this update, and I can't help but feel a mix of pride and disbelief at how much my life has changed. Things are good, really good, and I owe a lot of that to the lessons I learned during the darkest time of my life. Let me start with the business. The startup I mentioned took off faster than I ever imagined. The woman who invested in me, the businessman's ex-wife, kept her word. She provided the capital I needed, and I built a team that believed in my vision. The first few months were tough, long nights, endless meetings, tweaking the product until it was perfect, but it all paid off. The business is thriving. We've got a steady stream of clients, and we're growing at a pace I never thought possible back when this was just a dream. And in case you're wondering, my relationship with the investor is strictly business. She's sharp, all business, and keeps everything professional. We meet regularly, but it's always about the company, no hidden agendas, no awkward moments, nothing like what happened between us that first time. We both moved on and it works. Now, let's get to the fun part. My ex-wife, Emma. Yeah, she came crawling back. I didn't think she would, not after how things ended between us, but once news spread about my business doing well, she suddenly remembered I existed. It started with a message, simple at first, just a, "Hey, how have you been?" Like she hadn't blown up our life and left for another guy. I ignored it. Then the messages started piling up, getting longer and more desperate. She hinted at how much she missed me, how she'd made a mistake, and didn't realize what she had until it was gone. Classic, right? The cherry on top was when she called me one evening, trying to sound sweet and regretful, saying all the things you'd expect. I still care about you. We had something special. Maybe we could start over. But the truth is, she didn't care about me. She saw the money, the success, and thought she could slide back into my life like nothing happened. I let her talk for a while, then told her to go to hell, plain and simple. I don't know if she expected that, but the silence on the other end of the line told me everything I needed to know. I hung up and never looked back, let her live in the mess she made. But enough about her. There's someone new in my life now. I met this girl a few months ago. Let's call her Sarah. She's different. No drama, no baggage, no hidden motives. We met at a friend's party, of all places, and just clicked. She's funny, smart, down to earth, and doesn't care about material things. She doesn't know about my business yet, at least not the details. I've been keeping that part of my life private, not because I don't trust her, but because I want to make sure she's with me for who I am, not for the money or the success. We've been spending a lot of time together, and yeah, I'm really starting to like her. It's refreshing to be with someone who doesn't expect anything from me, except honesty and just being myself. After everything I've been through, I'm not rushing to tell her about the business maybe one day when the time feels right, but for now, I'm enjoying just getting to know her without any of the complications. So that's where I'm at now. A year ago, I was stuck in the worst time of my life with everything falling apart around me. Now, I'm running a successful business surrounded by people who believe in what we're building. I've got my life back and I've got something more hope for the future. I want to end this by thanking everyone who's been following my story. Sometimes life throws you into situations that seem impossible to survive, but if I can get through it, so can you. Believe in yourself, in your ability to come out stronger, and never let anyone diminish your worth. Success isn't just about money or power, it's about learning from the pain, moving forward, and becoming the best version of yourself. I learned that the hard way, but I'm grateful for the lessons, harsh as they were. To anyone reading this, whether you're in the middle of your own mess or just trying to find your way, keep going. Believe in the best and don't let anyone tell you that you don't deserve it. Thank you for being there through it all.